and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new die, Build a Greenhouse. So let's go ahead and check it out. Here are all of the pieces that are included in Build a Greenhouse. We have the greenhouse, of course, and the backer for the greenhouse and backers for the doors. We have this cute little bench, and then some fun little plants that you can add into your scenes. We have some little door handles for the doors of the greenhouse, and then different styles of pots. We have a hanging pot, kind of terracotta pots, and more buds and flowers that you can add into all of these pots. They are so much fun to do. On the greenhouse, you'll see that there are little score lines that you can fold or not. So you can leave the doors closed, or you can fold along those little score lines, and you can have the doors open on your greenhouse, and it is such a cute look. Then you can start to layer all of these different greeneries inside of the pots, and you can see how adorable this is. This kind of reminds me of playing with like little miniatures or making your very own little dollhouse. It's like your very own little dollhouse greenhouse. It's so cute and sweet. You can use those little buds on their own so they look like flowers about to bloom, or you can add the little tulips on top. And then you can layer that little rounded pot on top of the hanging piece, and the hanging pot is my favorite part of this whole thing. And then it has one of these little plants that kind of hang down out of the pot. I mean, look how gorgeous that is. Then you could also take these tiny little tulips and you can layer them into the tiny little pots. And it's just the cutest thing. There's something about things that are miniature that just makes me smile. Then you can layer your plants on this cute little bench, and this is just adorable. You can also just layer them into your greenhouse scenes too. And you can see as we lay the greenhouse over how cute and sweet that is. You can also have this little hanging plant kind of hang right there from the point of the greenhouse, and it's such a sweet and cute look. And then, of course, you can add these little door handles onto the door, and I just think they're so sweet. They'd be really pretty cut out of some metallic cardstock, out of gold or silver, right onto those door handles. And then we have these backers to the doors, and we're going to be showing you some ways to use those, but you could do them out of acetate to create almost like a glass door, or you could do them out of brown to create a wooden door. There's a lot of cool and different looks that you can do with those. And so right here, you'll see we would just add some little drops of glue onto the doors, and then we can just layer these right behind it. And so I like that it gives a whole different look to the greenhouse by doing that. We'll then go ahead and layer the other backer to the door, and then you can add some glue behind the greenhouse and layer that onto this backer. And you can do that out of pattern paper, colored cardstock, you can do it out of vellum, and we're going to be showing you that a lot in this video too. And so now it's time to start creating, and I went ahead and die cut a bunch of the greeneries and pots just out of white cardstock. You can die cut these out of pattern paper, colored cardstock, or you can do white cardstock and add some color with your markers, and that's what I'm going to be doing here today. So I'm just doing really simple where I just scribble the color on and then kind of blend it out with my lighter marker. Really, really easy like that. And there's something about that kind of brightish yellowy green at the tips of the plants that just make them look like they're almost glowing. And right now I am recreating a beautiful card by Elena. So thank you so much, Elena. This card just blew me away. Now for the stems, I'm using kind of some pinks and light browns to create the little stems, and I think that's a really pretty look, and I'm just blending dark to medium to light, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the little hanging rope there for the hanging pot. For all of the other little pots, I'm just going to blend down a light brown marker and then just kind of blend it out. And what I love about this is it doesn't need to be perfect. The imperfections are actually what makes it look like a real pot or a real plant, so it's really fun to add color to your die cuts this way. Next, we went ahead and die cut the greenhouse out of some gold metallic cardstock, and the greenhouse out of the different metallics, whether it's holographic or silver or gold, looks amazing. Then we're going to die cut the base piece, and we're going to use some of this brand new Rainbow Ever After paper that has this gorgeous gradient on it. And you can see I'm just kind of playing around to see how I want the gradient to look behind my greenhouse. And I'm really liking that kind of glow of yellow at the bottom and the blue towards the top. So I'm going to die cut that piece just like that. Next, I'm going to die cut those little benches out of some brown wood grain cardstock. That way they'll have that beautiful texture of that cardstock, and we're going to be layering those in two different ways with this awesome greenhouse. And now you can start to see how that's looking, and it's just so pretty. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and open up the doors because we're going to have the doors open for this greenhouse. So I'm folding along those little score lines just like that, and we're going to open up those doors. Now, if you were using colored cardstock or pattern paper, you would have a pattern or a color on the other side, so you wouldn't have to worry about this step. But with the gold metallic, there isn't gold on both sides, but there's a nice and easy fix for that. I went ahead and just die cut another greenhouse out of the gold metallic cardstock. I'm going to fold the doors back, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and just trim those doors right off. Then all we need to do is just layer some little drops of liquid glue on the inside of those doors, and we can layer the doors that we cut off the other greenhouse right onto there. So you see we'll just layer them right on the back, and now we'll have that nice continuous gold metallic cardstock on both the outside and the inside of the doors. And oh my goodness, it is looking so pretty already. So now we're going to start filling our greenhouse, and we're going to kind of have like two layers to this greenhouse. So we're going to start by layering directly on the base piece, and we're going to layer some of these cute little benches there kind of right around the ground. And what I like to do is take my greenhouse and layer it over top and kind of see how it's going to look through the greenhouse. And then once I have perfect placement, I can just layer that on and then trim it off with my scissors. And then I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Then the other thing that you can do with the bench is you can actually trim it apart to create a little shelf. And I loved how Elena did this in her card. I thought it was so cool. So I'm just going to trim off the kind of standing legs part of the bench. And now I'm going to have two little shelves that I can layer on to my greenhouse back piece. But before I lay the shelves down, I wanted to create a little plant here. So this is the one that works for the hanging plant. But if you use it upside down and you tuck it into that little rounded pot holder, it is the cutest little plant. So we're going to take that guy and put it right on top of the bench. And this is what I talked about when it felt like playing with like little miniatures or a dollhouse. It is so much fun to create the perfect little greenhouse. And so now that we have that plant there, we can kind of start to layer the shelf in. I like the idea of the plant kind of layering over top of the shelf just a little bit. And so I'm just going to kind of play around where that's going to go. And then I can start to add another little plant to my shelf. So I'm adding one of these tiny little buds there. And this is what it looks like when you use it without the flower over top. So I like that it has two different looks. Then we can start to work on the left-hand side of the greenhouse. So we're going to add another one of these little plants there, and then that's going to give us where exactly we can put the shelf. And so we can layer the shelf on there, and then we can layer another plant onto the top of this shelf. And you can start to see this fun little greenhouse begin to form. And then I'm just using a little adhesive eraser to remove any excess adhesive that might be on there. And then I like to layer the greenhouse over top and make sure that I like how it's looking. And I'm really liking it. So now I'm going to work on my hanging pot. So I'm going to layer one plant kind of lower down on the pot, and then I'm going to layer another one a little bit higher up, and it's going to make it look really, really full. Then I'm going to add a little liquid glue to not only the top of the greenhouse, but also right above the door so that I can adhere this whole piece to the back of my greenhouse. So I just like to layer it right on top of that hanging pot, and then I just let it sit there and dry. Then I can just trim off the excess of my shelves. I had forgotten to do that earlier. And then we're going to create some more plants that are going to be layering onto the greenhouse. So we're making one of these bigger potted plants here, and then we're going to make another one where we take the hanging plant and kind of put it upside down into the rounded pot because that just looks so cute. And we're going to be layering these on the bottom part of the greenhouse. So what I'm going to do is just kind of lay them right there on the ground, kind of how I want them to look. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the back of the greenhouse, and then just like we did with the hanging pot, I'm just going to layer it right over top and kind of just let the glue dry just like that. And so you'll see that we've now layered stuff that's on the base piece of the greenhouse, and we've layered things to the greenhouse. And it's already just looking so, so adorable. So what I wanted there to be was a pop. And you don't always have to do a pop of the greenhouse, and we'll show you how to do it without a pop on the next couple cards. But I thought a pop would be fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm just layering some little foam squares there right behind all of those potted plants. And then I'm taking some of those micro foam squares and just putting them in the corners and then just peeling up all of the liner paper. And you really only need them in the corners of the greenhouse because you've got the foam squares in the center that are going to be on the potted plants. And now we're going to layer that over top, and it's going to create the most gorgeous dimension on this. And this right now, it reminds me of anthropology. Like it has that look of the anthropology store. It's just so pretty and delicate. I love the gold greenhouse. So we're going to add one more plant here, and this plant is going to go kind of in front of the greenhouse and in front of the doors. So I just added some tape runner to the back of that, and then I can just layer that right into the scene. And then once again, I had to kind of pick it up and look at it because it's so pretty. Look how gorgeous that is. There's so much dimension. It's so beautiful with the plants in there, and I just love how soft and gorgeous it is. So such a soft card needed a soft background. So we're going to use some of the speckled eggshell cardstock, and we're going to die cut it with the quilted backdrop. Then we're going to take some of that new algae cardstock that's such a pretty green that's going to go along with all of our plants. And we're going to flip this whole die cut piece over and just layer a bunch of liquid glue there onto it. And then we can just add that right onto the green cardstock. And now the green is going to peek through all of those little cut details. And it's just a soft and pretty look. Then we're going to be die cutting the Best Wishes line border, but we're going to use some double-sided adhesive strips on the back of some gold metallic cardstock to create a die cut sticker. So we'll add the adhesive sheet to the back of the cardstock. We'll die cut that with the Best Wishes die, and now we have a Best Wishes sticker, which is so great. So I'm going to take the greenhouse, I'm just going to kind of layer it there for placement to figure out exactly where I'm going to lay my best wishes down. I had peeled off the liner paper already, and now I can stick it down just like a sticker, and I love it out of the gold metallic cardstock, and it looks so pretty with the gold metallic greenhouse. So now I'll just take my scissors and just trim off any excess of that line border. Next, we're going to take out the stitched rectangle frames, and we're going to be using the large stitched rectangle frame, and we've die cut that out of some white cardstock. And we'll flip this over, and we're going to add some foam strips to the back of this so that it's going to give it kind of a shadow box feel. So we'll layer that all behind, and then we can peel off all the liner paper and layer it onto that quilted backdrop. And I just love that popped up look. Then we can take this whole background and layer it onto a standard size card base that's 5.5 by 4.25. And then we can take the greenhouse, we'll add some liquid glue with the glue tube to the back, and then we can layer that onto our card. And now our card is all done. It's so pretty and delicate. I love all the dimension, and I love the idea of adding color to all the die cuts with my markers. It's so much fun. And now that we've done something so soft and beautiful, we're going to do something with a bit of a bolder color palette. And so we're going to start off by creating a night sky. So here I'm starting off with some merman ink, and I'm just going to ink it up in the center of my cardstock because I want there to be kind of like a little glow in the center. And once I build that color up, I'm then going to take my darker blue, which is fish tank, and I'm going to go from the outside edges into that merman color. And when they overlap, I'll go back and forth between the colors to create a nice blend. Then I'm going to take some blue jay ink, which is an even darker blue, and add that to the outside edges. Then I'll go back to the fish tank and then back to the mermaid and back and forth between these colors until I really build it up to look nice and bold. So you can start to kind of see them blend together. And then I just added some more of that blue jay, the darkest blue around the edges, and then went back through my colors again to create this really, really pretty sky. Now next I'm going to take out a brand new die, which is our flower garden backdrop, and I am obsessed with this backdrop. It is so gorgeous, and we're going to die cut that from some Cilantro cardstock. And right now I am recreating a gorgeous card by Yanea, so thank you so much, Yanea. So there you can start to see what that's kind of going to look like. But I wanted there to be some variation in greens on these plants. So all I'm doing is just taking one marker and a darker green than the color of my cardstock, and I'm just coloring in some of those leaves. So I'm just coloring right over the cardstock, and it's going to be really cool because it's going to look like we almost used two different colors of cardstock, but we actually only used one and then just quickly colored in. You'll see I'm just kind of scribbling over them, and it ends up being a really, really cool look. And so I ended up just doing all the leaves, but I left the little flower ones in the lighter green. Then I'm going to take out the largest stitched rectangle frame, and I love this because it matches perfectly with the flower garden backdrop. So I've die cut that out of some black licorice cardstock. We'll add some adhesive to that, and then we're going to layer that right over the frame. And this is going to help us give that feeling of the nighttime scene by having that black frame around those beautiful green leaves. Next, we need a little ground for our greenhouse. So I've got some rainforest cardstock here, which is a really pretty dark green. And we're going to take the smallest of the grassy hillsides here. It's kind of the least slope there. And we're going to die cut some of this cardstock into be a beautiful dark grassy bottom for our greenhouse to sit on. And then what we'll do is just flip over this whole backdrop, and we'll just add some tape runner around the bottom along the frame. And then we can just layer that right over the grass to create our ground. Then we can flip this whole thing over, and we'll just add tape runner to the back of the entire frame, and then we can layer that onto the awesome ink blended piece that we have. And you can start to see how cool this night sky is looking. I just love this so much. Now it's time to start working on our greenhouse. And so I'm going to be die cutting some black cardstock, but to make kind of a greenhouse sticker, I'm going to be using some double-sided adhesive sheets. So I'm going to peel up that adhesive sheet and then just add it to the back of my cardstock. I'll press down really well, and then I can flip my cardstock over, and then I can lay my greenhouse die on it. And so when I die cut this, I'm effectively creating a sticker because I'll have the black cardstock on the front and then that adhesive sheet on the back. And this is going to help me adhere it down because we're going to be adding some acetate to this greenhouse. So here you'll see I'm going to take the base piece and we're going to die cut some acetate with that. And that's going to give the feeling of glass, which I just love. And then we're also going to die cut some of the little greenery pieces, and we're going to do that out of Cilantro cardstock so that it coordinates with the frame that we just created. And then we're going to take some paper bag and chocolate bar cardstock, so some different shades of brown, and we're going to die cut the pots and the benches, etc. out of all of those different shades of brown. And so I like this look because now we're using solid color cardstocks instead of coloring them with markers. And then for our base, we're going to be using some mermaid cardstock to be the base of our greenhouse. Now on this greenhouse, I only want one door to be open. So on the left door, I'm folding along the little score line there that's created for me, but on the right door, I'm just leaving it flat. Now I can peel up that backer paper and I've created a sticker so that I can adhere it down onto the acetate. And this is much easier than using drops of glue because you don't want any of those drops of glue to smear on the acetate. So this is a nice and simple way to do that. And now you can see it kind of looks like glass. Now we have that one door that's open, so we're going to die cut the door backer piece out of some acetate as well, so that the door looks glass too. We don't have to do it for the other one because we left the other one flat, so it's already on that base piece of acetate. So you'll see that piece of door already had the adhesive from that double-sided adhesive sheet we used, and so we'll just layer that piece of acetate right onto there, and now we have a glass door and also a glass greenhouse. And you can start to see how that's going to look when it's layered over our mermaid cardstock base. Now it's time to start filling our greenhouse. So we're going to add some adhesive to the back of the pots and the back of the plants. And you'll see that what I like to do is kind of see where would I want it to be in my greenhouse. Ooh, I like it right there. And then I just kind of press down and I attach it to that base piece. So there you can see just like that. Then we can go ahead and add some color the same way we did with the backdrop with a darker green marker over top of that cardstock so that we have a little bit of a different shade. And we're going to start layering these on the edges here. And what I like about this look is when you kind of layer it on the edge, you can trim off different leaves if there's too many, and then you can trim off anything that's hanging over the edge, and it makes the greenhouse really feel like it's full of all of these plants. And so there you'll see I put the greenhouse over top just to kind of see how I look, and then I can press down and secure it in place. And then we'll just trim off any of the excess. Next, we're going to work on that little hanging plant. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the rounded pot and layer that over top. So I have 2 shades of brown for my hanging plant, and then adhesive to the back of the plant, and then we'll layer that right on this little hanging pot. I mean, it's just so cute and sweet. This one's my favorite. I just think it's adorable to have that little hanging pot there. Then I'm going to pick up my greenhouse again for placement, kind of seeing where I like it. And once I see the position that I like it in, I can just kind of press down onto the base and secure that in place again. And you can start to see this fun little scene forming. I'm going to keep layering in different plants so you can kind of see them coming there in from the edges. And once again, I'm layering that greenhouse over top so I can really see how it's going to look. I decided to add another darker green plant just for some variation. So I just added some marker there, and then I once again can just trim everything off. Then to layer my greenhouse on there, once again, I didn't want to play around with liquid glue just in case it smeared onto my acetate. So I'm just using some tiny micro glue dots, and I'm just adding them in the corners and then kind of around the doors, etc. And that's going to be enough to hold it in place. Then I can just take that whole thing and layer it on this beautiful scene that we've created. Then now that our cute little greenhouse is done, I'm just going to flip it over. We'll add some tape runner to the back, and we're going to be adding it into our nighttime scene that we created earlier. And so you'll see I'm just kind of lifting up those flowers there because I want the flowers to cover over the greenhouse because that to me is what makes it feel like it's almost like in this overgrown garden. I just think it's such a pretty look. Now that we have our greenhouse on there, we're going to add a couple more things. So we're going to add this little bench here on the outside of the greenhouse, and then we're going to layer in some cute little potted plants on top. And the 3 of these in a row just look adorable. To help set the scene for her night sky, Yanea used some Nouveau drops, and so I decided to do the same, and I hadn't used these in a long time. So these are in the white color, and we're just going to go ahead and layer in little dots just randomly all over in different sizes to give a cool night sky scene look. And I love these little dots because they're nice and 3-dimensional, and they end up looking so cool in the sky. Then once I finished all these dots, I actually set this all aside so that I can go ahead and work on my sentiment. And for the sentiment, we're going to be using Henry's Build a Sentiment. And it's so awesome because you can mix and match all these sentiments together to create the perfect phrase. And so I went through all these phrases and I really love the sending love your way. So I'm going to take those and what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve them on my block so that it matches the curve of the sentiment banner die that I'm going to be using. And I love how these match up perfectly with their little rectangular blocks. So it's really easy not only to stamp them straight, but also to give them a nice little curve too. I'm going to stamp that in some black licorice ink on some vanilla malt cardstock. And then there's a banner die that's included in the Ta-Da Diorama Heart Window add-on. And I just really love this banner die because it's got the little stitching detail and it was the perfect length. So I went ahead and lined that up and die cut my sentiment. Then I'm going to add some tape runner to a standard size card base that's 5.5 by 4.25. And we can layer our cute, awesome greenhouse scene over top. And then I'm going to go ahead and work on layering in this sentiment banner. And what I like about this is we're going to kind of layer it behind some of the leaves. So I'll add some tape runner to the back of that, and then I'm just going to tuck it on those little leaves there. And I think that once again gives that overgrown garden look that I think is just so cute and pretty. And now my card is all done and it's so gorgeous. I love the nighttime sky scene. I love the acetate on the greenhouse because it really makes it feel like it's a glass greenhouse. And I love that that little door can open and close. And then here, I just wanted to show you a comparison between the two cards and how you can get a really soft look or a really bold look. You can have the awesome gold metallic or the acetate. There's so many cool things you can do with it. And one of my other favorite things to do with this is to combine it with a stamp set. And that's what we're going to be doing now. So I'm taking the largest of the outside in stitch rectangles and we're going to die cut some of that brand new Tide Pool cardstock. And then we're also going to be die cutting with that same rectangular die some of the algae cardstock here. Then we're going to take a simple hillside die and we're going to line that up at the bottom, creating a hillside that's going to have that beautiful stitch detail so that there's stitching all of the way around the sky and also our background. Then we'll add some tape runner to that and we can just layer that right onto the sky and our scene is starting to form. Now this greenhouse is perfect to combine with the brand new Veggie Happy stamp set, and that's what we're going to be doing today. And so we're going to be stamping part of a sentiment on this, and it's the From My Head to My Toes. So we're going to stamp that in some black licorice ink right onto the grass at the bottom. And then we can go ahead and start working on our greenhouse. And this time for the greenhouse, we're going to be using some awesome storm cloud cardstock, which is a nice dark gray that's a really pretty color for this. So I like that we've done metallic, we've done black, and then now also a dark gray. Then we're going to create this cute little potted plant. So we're going to add some tape runner onto the back and then just layer that. So we've got some chocolate bar cardstock and some kraft cardstock. And then we're just going to layer that cute little hanging plant right into the pot. Then for this card, we have cut the base piece out of vellum, which is going to give that kind of translucent look that's going to make it feel almost like you're looking through a glass greenhouse. So it's going to be a really, really cool look. So the first thing we're going to do is add some tape runner there to the top of the greenhouse so that we can attach the hanging plant at the top. And then we're going to layer some tape runner onto that bench and we're just going to attach that right onto that piece of vellum because that's going to be our base piece. And now it's time to start layering in stamped images. So in the other two cards, we used all the die cuts that are included with Build a Greenhouse, but what I love about this is that you can layer in your favorite stamps too. And so that's what we're going to be doing here with some Veggie Happy images. So look how cute this little kind of dirt and plant there looks on top of the bench with the little shovel as well. I mean, it is just adorable. Now we're going to layer the greenhouse over top once again, just to kind of get the proper placement for everything. And we're going to add in the cute little mouse with the tomato like he's been tending his garden and he's in his greenhouse just kind of harvesting his tomatoes. I mean, it's just so cute. I love telling the little story of what's going on with this. And then we're going to add in this little soil bag here at the bottom too to just kind of help fill in the scene. And then of course he needs a tomato plant in there as well. Now we can layer some liquid glue on the back of our greenhouse, and then we can layer that right onto the vellum and the whole scene that we've created. And I love the mixture of the die cuts and the die cut plant with all of the cute little stamped images too. Then we can flip the greenhouse too, and we can add some liquid glue all behind the different parts of the greenhouse and all those stamped images. And then we can layer this into the scene. And you can see by adding the vellum, it really gives that cool translucent look. So there's so many different ways to get awesome looks with the greenhouse. Then as we layered that into the scene, we thought, you know what, we need some more images for around the greenhouse too to really help set the scene. So we went ahead and stamped and die cut and colored a bunch more images from the set. And so we're going to start layering these into the scene. And that little wheelbarrow is too cute, and I love that it's red to match the red tomatoes. We'll add that little worm at the bottom and then another cute little mouse that's kind of tending to the garden. And I love the little tomato sign as well. I think it's just adorable and sweet. And the next thing that this sky needed was some clouds. So we brought out our all the cloud stamp set, and we're going to layer some of these clouds in here. We're going to take one of the clouds and layer it behind the greenhouse, and I really like that look because you can see a bit of the cloud through the vellum. And then we're going to stamp out the I totally dig you sentiment, and we're going to be cutting that with a sentiment banner die. And we're going to line up the banner die to the right hand side. Then we can hold it in place with some low tack tape, and we'll run it through the die cut machine, and then we're going to layer this onto the card. And what we'll do is just cut off any of the excess, so you just have one end of the banner coming in. Then we're going to add some foam squares to the back of this to give it some nice pop, and we're going to be layering it onto some pretty striped paper from Really Rainbow, and I just love the rainbow behind it. It just kind of brightens up the whole card. And then we can take this whole thing and layer it on a standard size card base that's 5.5 by 4.25, and now this super cute card is all done. And I love that this greenhouse looks just as cute with stamped images as it looks with die cuts. I love it both ways, and it's absolutely adorable. And next up, Shari has a super cute project for you, so take it away, Shari.
So I am making a notebook with my Build a Greenhouse dies today. I've already cut out all the very small plant pieces with some colored cardstock. I've cut out that solid piece that layers behind from some spiffy speckles paper, and then the frame of my greenhouse from some peacock cardstock. And I'm just going to fold along the score line of the hinge of the door, and I'm using my ruler to help me fold along that delicate fold line. So I'm just bumping that against the fold line, and I can fold up against it. And once I have it going, I can fold it all the way out and enforce that fold with my bone folder. Now I'm only folding one door out. I'm going to leave the other one closed because that fits with my design. Then I'm adding some liquid glue on the back of the greenhouse. And I will layer this onto that spiffy speckle. So I'm actually going to do it from the back. I've laid my greenhouse face down, and then I can lay my solid piece on the back, and then I can shift it around and make sure it's all nice and lined up. Now I need to assemble all my plants in my greenhouse. So I have these larger plants cut from Cilantro cardstock, and I'm putting them in these larger pots. These are cut from guava cardstock. Next, I have all of these little flowers. I cut the stems from Cilantro cardstock. I did cut 6 of them, so I ran it through twice. And then the tops of the tulips are cut from sunflower cardstock and sugar plum cardstock. So I will have 3 purple tulips and 3 yellow tulips. So I just put a little dot of glue on the top of each stem and added the tulip head to each of these. Then I'm adding a little bit of liquid glue to the bottom of each stem, and I will just add them to the little pots. I did cut all of the little pots from some narwhal cardstock, and I'm just picking these up with my embellishment wand and dropping them into place, which is a great way to work with these little small die cuts. Now, instead of a card today, I'm making a little notebook. So I have the Perfectly Plaid Remix notebook set. I'll be using this one with the blue and the green plaid for my project. And I will just start by adhering this down with liquid glue. This makes sure that it won't come off, it will stay in place, because I think this would be a fun little gift to give a friend that likes to garden and grow things. This is a cute little gift that they could take with them to the nursery or out when they're gardening, put their notes or their lists in it, and I just think it's a really fun thing for someone who really likes to play in the dirt and grow plants. So I've added my little picnic table. I've overlapped that door, so this picnic table is sitting outside. This will hold that door down in place. And then my other one is swinging freely, but I'm tucking some plants behind it. So it looks like these plants are on the outside of the greenhouse and that door just swings against them. So I've flanked my greenhouse on each side with that big plant that's in that pretty pink pot. and then I'm adding my little tulips around just randomly to fill in the space. So I like that we can put some down here on the ground. We can also set some up on the table, and then because that table has the bench, you'll see me put some down on the bench. So we have all kinds of different heights of these tulips, which I think is fun. And I also like that I did 2 different colors, and I did this so I could kind of mix the colors up and alternate them, so I did not have 2 purples together or 2 yellows together, and we get lots of color all over this little scene that I'm creating. So I put one down on the bench, and then I'm putting this last one on the other end of the table. It looks like someone's been working in the greenhouse and sorting their plants and moving them all around. Now, instead of a sentiment, I thought I would just put a word on the bottom, and so I'm spelling out the word grow. I think you could fit any word, or you could customize this to be someone's name. I'm using Henry Jr.'s ABCs to do this, and I'm just going to stamp this on a piece of cilantro cardstock, and then I will use a sentiment banner to cut it out. You could also emboss this, heat and emboss this, so that if this was out in a greenhouse in places that could be wet, the ink would not run. So I'll just line this up towards the left side of my sentiment banner, and I'm just going to make a little short sentiment banner. So I've cut that out, then I'm going to pop that off and move the die over so I get this cute little banner that says grow. Like I said, this would be really fun to add any word or anyone's name to. So I'll just add this below the greenhouse with some liquid glue. And another little tip, don't do like me. I actually glued all this to the back of the notebook. So don't be like me. Check and make sure you are making your cute little notebook with your greenhouse on the front. So here is that final little greenhouse, and I love all the colors, and it was so much fun to put together.
Oh my goodness, Shari, this notebook is so cute and sweet. I love all of the happy colors. It's just adorable. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team, and this one by Audrey just blew me away. The watercolor look is just gorgeous, and this would make such a perfect and stunning Mother's Day card. And then this card here by Grace is absolutely stunning. I love how she used the new flower garden backdrop on its side, and I love the look of that gorgeous metallic greenhouse with all of those beautiful plants in it. Oh my goodness, it is stunning. Next up, we have a beautiful card by Elise, and I love all of her colors of cardstock and how she found the perfect cardstock to make a terracotta pot. It's such a cute sentiment as well. And then this card by Callie is so fun. I love how clean and simple it is, and I love the bright pops of color in all of the pots and flowers. Here is the card by Elena that inspired us to make ours today, and I love its gold, beautiful look. And then this card by Lynette is so beautiful. I love how she used all the gorgeous pattern papers and how she matched her little flowers to the papers perfectly. And then here is the card by Yanea that inspired us to make ours. I love the night sky she created. I think it's such a cool look for this. This card by Rebecca is so sweet. I love all the pastels and the little mouse that's kind of pushing his wheelbarrow on by. Oh, it's so adorable. And then this card by Letitia is just stunning. I love how she added the awesome secret garden window over top of the greenhouse. It's beautiful with all of those purples and greens. I just love it. And we cannot wait to see all of your greenhouses, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye.